Hey everyone, my name is Tech Sensory. I created this channel as I wanted to do reviews of some of the tech that I bought in a way that I don't see often on YouTube. I'm a person that whenever I buy technology, whether it's a video game system, a controller, computer, anything, one of the more important things for me is the product, how it feels, how it sounds, on top of everything else that it does. And I do see some YouTube channels that cover specific aspects of these reviews, but sometimes they don't touch on some of the things that I really want to see during the unboxing process, or just how certain things feel. I've seen a lot of reviews, for example, here on the ModRetro Chromatic that I just purchased recently, and not a lot of reviews mention the feel of the buttons, which I think is a missed opportunity because one of my issues, especially as I get older, is I have problems with the way that buttons feel on a lot of portable technology. A lot of buttons are too small. The face buttons, like the A, B, X, Y buttons, are very small and beady, and they end up hurting my thumbs and fingers after a while. Just for a little background information, I work in IT and I'm a lifelong gamer of over 30 years. So I do have problems with my hands, and any kind of technology that I use is really important to me in terms of comfort and especially feel. And there's just certain feels in terms of buttons or in terms of material used that I just don't like. And if I think about it too much while I'm playing, or I'm trying to get out of my head and into whatever world I'm playing, if it doesn't feel good, then it's a problem for me. And I don't see a lot of videos covering the sensory portion of this. So I wanted to make some videos to kind of talk about, the unboxing process and also include how certain things feel. So without further ado, I did order a recently a new purchase from ModRetro. I came across this from other YouTube videos, and after a couple weeks of thinking about it, I purchased an order they have recently here on Black Friday. And so I ordered the orange ModRetro Chromatic. On top of that, I also ordered the power core for the rechargeable, and I'll be going over this in a different video. And I also ordered 2 games, which is Wicked Plague and Dragon Hymn. My favorite type of video game are RPGs and Metroid style games. So these are the first 2 games that I wanted to try before ordering anything else. And then last but not least, I ordered the camera's a little small here, the ModRetro Chromatic Kit. I'll probably be digging into this a little bit later, as I don't really want to mod the system right now. I just kind of wanted to order it to have the tool and just the ability to, if I needed to open the system up and repair it, that I would later. But it was on sale and it was a good time to buy it. But what I wanted to go over and what you should expect from this video is the full experience. This isn't the first time unboxing, but I just want to kind of show you the whole box and everything that you'll see in here if you were to order this, and kind of what you expect. And so what you'll see on this box, which has a nice, really hefty feel to it. It feels like you're going to be getting a premium product. If you were to walk into the store and pick this up, this would feel good in your hands. And I love the retro art style. And you'll see, I don't know what game that is on there, but this part right here is see-through. And this will show you what color you're getting. So as you can see, I got the orange color. And then here on the bottom, you'll see bundled with chromatic Tetris. I love the fact that this comes with an actual game. And then on the side, it's pretty plain. You'll see here, it just says Chromatic Metro. There's some information on the bottom there for you. And then we get on the back here. And you'll see here it says the ultimate cartridge-based handheld system, and it kind of just shows you a little graphic of what you're actually getting, which is the system. You're getting a game with it, and you're getting 3 AA batteries. And then over here, I did order the more expensive version, which has a sapphire crystal display. You'll see that right there. I believe the $199 version has a Gorilla Glass display. Now, I did get this on sale for Black Friday. But the reason that I bought the sapphire display is I figure if I'm going to buy this, I want it to last me long term, and I was willing to spend the extra money. They have a QR code here where you can learn more about Chromatic, and then here on the back of it, they kind of give a description of the product. and it does say that they do have a power core. This does not come with, I know it mentions a USB-C cable here. This does not actually come with a USB-C cable, but the power core does. So when you buy this, it actually comes shrink wrapped. And I know this shouldn't really be an important detail, but the shrink wrapping is like very tight and premium. Sometimes you'll buy a product and the shrink wrapping will be very loose. Kind of gives off like an initial feeling that maybe the product you're purchasing isn't, of that high of a quality. This has that high quality shrink wrap feeling. And so you actually open it up from the side here. And then when you open it, the first thing you'll notice is the artwork. And again, it's really playful, like that you're getting a gaming device. And I really like this because a lot of modern day devices, especially for example the Nintendo Switch boxes, they have a very it just looks like a piece of furniture or something you put on a table. It doesn't look like a gaming device. So this is kind of going back to that. And I also like the fact that they do put a QR code here to learn about your chromatic, and it specifically states here to update your firmware. This device does have an application that you can download for like Windows, I believe Mac as well, where you can plug it in, and you do have to update the firmware. I believe mine shipped with version 2.x, and the current version is 4.1. So there was a decent amount of updates. And then when you move this over, here's what you see. Now, one thing you'll see when you open it, if you buy one of yourselves, is this right here. It'll be sitting on top of the screen. And again, I really like this. It's simple. It just says, remove the protective film, unwrap the batteries, and update the chromatic. So there's a little part right here that pops out. And then there's your system. There's nothing underneath this. This is just for the system. Now, I kind of want to before we go to the rest of the stuff in the box, I want to show the system. The screen is, the Sapphire screen says Sapphire right here. And with the moment you pick up this device, you'll immediately feel the metal body. The description of what it's made of and everything is on the website, so you can look at that. And I would recommend that you do your research, but I want to talk more about how it feels. And it feels extremely premium in your hands. Sorry about the light above here. It feels extremely premium in your hands. Nothing about this feels cheap. Everything from the rounded edges, which feel extremely nice to hold, and just the overall weight distribution, you feel like the money that you spent on this was well worth it. I know that this is a fairly expensive product for something that just plays Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, but if you're going to spend that money to get the ultimate retro device for that purpose, I think this is money well spent. The buttons are what was really important to me. And it was something that I've read in a lot of forums about the Analog Pocket, which said the buttons sometimes didn't feel that great. Everything here feels fantastic. These buttons aren't too loud, unlike something like the Xbox Series controller, which I feel like has really, really clicky buttons. These buttons have just a little bit of click to them, but more importantly, they have a nice, semi, they're not too beady, and they're not too flat either. So when you press on them, it doesn't seem like it's gonna hurt your hand too much. And more importantly, they're much larger, or not much larger, but they're larger than something like, for example, the 3DS. And so you feel like you're going to be able to press these buttons a lot, which is good because it's the only two face buttons here. And then same thing with these start and select button. They're not flat at all. You can see here. And when you press on them, you can definitely feel them, and they're very easy to click. This D-pad does feel a little bit stiff, I'm not going to lie, but I feel like it'll loosen up a little bit over time. I know there's a membrane underneath it, but it feels large, and to your thumb, so there's plenty of room to move. And you can also hold it down and move it this way diagonally as well. So I feel like over time, once it gets a little bit looser through standard play, it's going to feel good. Here on the side, you have a spot for your lanyard. That'll come into play with some of the games that they sell. And then this is the port for the link cable if you want to buy it. They do sell a link cable as well. I'm probably not going to be playing with anybody, so I'm not going to use that. Here on the bottom, you have a 3.5 millimeter headset. This is a light for charging, and then there is a USB-C port here for when you need to plug it in to charge. And then here's a speaker. And then onto this side is another lanyard cable. This is the wheel for adjusting the volume, and then this is the ModRetro button. Now, this is my first criticism of this device. This button is very, it's not easy to hit. You have to really put some, you got to put some effort. You got to see like I'm pushing down pretty hard. And I mean, on one hand, it's good because you're not going to be, you know, accidentally pushing it. Maybe that was their, you know, the way they designed it. But I do wish it was a little bit less, there's a little bit less requirement to push on it, because compared to everything else in here, it stands out as just being a little bit more difficult to press. My other criticism here, and I want to say something before I show it, is pretty much the sensor right here. You can see mine has a scuff on it right there, and it's disappointing to see that, because this is a really premium device, and I almost thought about contacting them, but then I just decided, you know what, it's not going to really affect it too much, and it is essentially extremely small. But I thought maybe there's a protective film on this, but I really can't find an edge to peel off, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. And then this is the power button to the device. It has a super it feels really, really good. It's easy to press, and it's got that nice click that you would expect from a Game Boy. Going on the back, this part here is also feels really nice. When you slide the game in, you know that, you know, it holds in. I heard one of the other complaints about the analog pocket is that the games don't really feel like they're tightly in there. This definitely does. And you'll see that the back is very clear. There's nothing on there. Unfortunately, this is my other scuff on here. And again, it's really small. You may not even be able to see it, but it's right there. It's like a little tiny bump. I know it seems like I'm nitpicking, but again, for a premium device like this, these are the things that bother me as somebody who, you know, sensory feel is important. And then here's where you have the back of this. I'm not sure still how I feel about this cover, and the fact that it's a little difficult to get out. You kind of have to like push on this with your nail. But if you hear that, it's metal. It comes out. Apparently, the first generation one had some foam here to dampen anything, but I guess they just decided they didn't need it. So my only experience, this is the second generation, so this is my only experience with this device, but you can hear and feel that metal quality. Again, and it's very light too. And so then this is the inside of the device. And I really like this, but I'll show you my other criticism of this. And I say criticism, but this is something that probably every, you know, Game Boy ever had. And there, you know, the fix to it will simply just be to use the power core instead. But this is where it's, where the power core adapter goes right here, and it sits in there as well. And so all you have to do is, once it's in there, you'll plug it into the USB-C to charge it. But otherwise, you'll put in three AA batteries that go in here. So that is the system itself. It feels really good. Like I said, I love the fact that you can like feel that this is made out of really good material, and the paint quality on mine is amazing. So going back to this box, you then put, you know, there's a little hole in here to lift this part, and then this is what the rest of the package is. It's pretty simplistic. They don't have any paperwork for the actual device itself, but there's really not anything needed. What you're going to be getting is you know, first you're going to get the three AAA batteries here, and they have them styled after ModRetro. So I don't think there's anything special about them, but you'll see that when you put them in there, everything is extremely tight. So and one of my biggest complaints about this is getting them out. It's, you have to have long nails or something to kind of prime out. I wish there was an easier way to get them out, but once they're sturdy, and then, you put and this is kind of my other complaint, is that when you put this in here, I'm not sure whether you're supposed to lift this up or just, it's got a little bit of a click, but it doesn't feel entirely satisfying the way that it should. I'm really hoping that this is the proper way to do it. There's no instructions to say one way or the other, but it doesn't add a lot of heft. Again, the device feels really good in your hands, and even with the 3 AA batteries, it still feels very easy to hold. This isn't something like a Steam Deck or any of the modern systems where you might not be able to play it for long periods of time. You could probably play this for hours and not even notice it. And then last but not least is your included game here, which is, in this case, is the chromatic version of Tetris. Again, it's extremely cool that they include a game. You'll see the back of it here. And then the internals. I don't believe any of these games use actual batteries like the original Game Boy Color games do, which is nice. Some of these games do have updates as well. I believe it tells you specifically which games they do on their site. And the same app that you use to update the firmware of the Chromatic is used to update the games made by ModRetro. And so I'm just going to show you what it sounds like when you put a game inside here. If you can hear that, it's got a very satisfying click. It's in there. It's not coming out unless you pull on here. And this is, again, something I always loved about Game Boy Color games is there's that textured, like almost grip area where you can just kind of pull it out like this. But it's got a very solid feeling to it here. And now I want you to hear what it sounds like to turn the system on. So you kind of hear that little bit of physical click here. And here's what the screen looks like turned on. It's absolutely beautiful. See, it's got really good viewing angles. And it's backlit and everything. So for those of you who don't know, the screen, and I'm sorry, I forgot the number, so I'm not going to mention them, but the screen matches the same pixel density as the original Game Boy Color, something that none of its competitors do, such as the Analog Pocket, which has a larger screen. So if you want that pixel perfect screen, this is definitely the way to go. And I want to show you kind of what happens. So this is the, there you go. You'll see that this is the audio button over here. It goes up pretty high. And again, it doesn't use Bluetooth, but it does have a 3.5mm jack, so you can use standard headphones. Me personally, I'm glad I kept my standard wired AirPods. But as you'll see here, this is what happens when you press the button here. It goes to a special menu. Even if you're using AA batteries, it shows you your battery life here. There's no light here. And you'll see here that you can change how dark it goes. And some of these things aren't exactly, and so silent mode here, I was about to say some of these things aren't explained, but yeah, silent mode just puts it on silent, so you don't have to mess around with this if you don't want to. And then there's other options. So this device does actually stream to a TV if you want. I haven't tried it yet, but you can apparently plug it in through USB, and so some of these settings, I believe, are, well, yeah, here you go, streaming. So you have raw color and corrected color. So you'll see here, there's some options that I don't entirely know what they do, and I wanted to kind of talk about this. This is something I do wish that was included, maybe with some instructions, or maybe just like something underneath here that gave you the frame blend transitions. Like the low battery obviously is something like, obviously if the battery gets low, it's going to constantly notify you, and you can just tell it to hide or blink. But I do wish that for just the everyday person who ordered this, that they put a little blurb here on what some of these settings do. They don't make entirely too much sense on their own. And then you can ignore directional controls, or you can allow directional controls. This is the default settings for just about everything here. This palette option, I think they actually added in one of the more recent firmware updates, so I haven't had any chance to test it yet. And so you'll see that I'm running firmware version 4.1 here. And then to get back out of this menu, you just press this. And this is the only button on here that's kind of unique to this device that wasn't on the original. And obviously the original did have, I believe, like a brightness meter or something that's controlled through here. So, and then it's missing the little blinker here that told you that if it was low on battery, because it's built into the OS now. And then, you know, you go to my profile here, and then this is just what it looks like when you play the game. I'm not very good at Tetris, but again, I'm just glad that it's included. So you see as I'm playing, you'll hear that this, you know, like I said, this it is a little stiff, and I think that over time it will, you know, this will loosen up. This definitely doesn't feel as good as these 4 buttons do here. And again, though, but it is stiff. You do feel like you're actually controlling the game. And I think that, like, if you're playing something that requires less specific inputs, but maybe holding down is definitely going to feel better. But overall, you know, I have fairly chunky fingers, and so you'll see that, like, for me, this fits fairly well. And I'm really happy with the size. Like this, when you look at the website and then you think to yourself, how does this feel? Does it feel good? It feels smooth. It's got round edges. Everything holding this device just feels good in your hand. So if you want something that's, you know, if you want to go back and play some old Game Boy games, Game Boy Color games, they're even making newer games now from like ModRetro. There's a company called Incubate that publishes games, so you can get those. There's also homebrew games. This is definitely something that, you know, is portable. You can take it with you. They don't sell any kind of cases that I know of from ModRetro itself, but I know you can go to like Etsy or other places and find cases that people have made for Game Boys. And, you know, if you buy one with the Sapphire screen, this is extremely scratch resistant. I've seen channels like Jerry Rig Everything, you know, put a lighter to the screen and it didn't damage it at all. So this is a very scratch resistant screen. I think the original Game Boy had a plastic screen, so you're definitely not going to have to worry about that. But yeah, so this is kind of the initial unboxing process of this and just what it feels like in your hands. Premium metal. And I'm not 100% sure if they talk about it here in the back, but yeah, they don't. I should have looked this up before I made the video, but again, it's my first video. Yeah, what the exact alloy is that they use, but it's a light metal, but it feels really sturdy in your hands. You can definitely tell that it's not plastic. So I do want to make a couple of follow-up videos, just kind of go over the unboxing of the games that I bought, and also just the ModRetro power core as well. It's pretty simple to install, and once you update the firmware on your system, you know, you're pretty much good to go. You plug it in, charge it just like any modern device. So hopefully I'll see you guys later. Bye.